Going up the mountain, Zhang Beiran quickly learned about his trial content from Dao Chang's mouth. Beiran, cultivation is a matter that requires hardship and perseverance, and mining is the best way to exercise these two qualities. As long as you persist and pass the test of the mountain guard, the poor will come to pick you up. Zone. Leaving these words and fighting spirit Zhang Beiran, the black-robed Dao King turned and went down the mountain. Master, I will definitely try my best to repay you for this kindness. After secretly swearing in his heart, Zhang Beiran followed a guardian into the mine. However, such ambitions were completely extinguished the next day. The reason is simple: mining is too tired. Zhang Beiran was just an ordinary second-year student before crossing. He hadn't even attended a few sessions of physical education, and his physical fitness could be said to be quite poor. After crossing over, his body hasn't strengthened much. In addition to the lack of nutrition, his body can't be described as skinny. Without any training, Zhang Beiran was taken to a mine by two guards the next morning. After meeting several taciturn workers, the guards gave him a basket and a mining pick and told him to work hard. In Zhang Beiran's imagination, mining should be like a computer game by clanging, and clanging against a piece of ore. However, in reality, the stench, sultry, dark, and small mine environment made him confused at once. Where did he see this posture when he was in junior high school not long ago? But the two mountain guards obviously didn't plan to give him time to prepare psychologically. They pushed him directly into the wrapped road supported by wooden boards. Because of the different heights of the Wolu, Zhang Beiran sometimes stood and walked, sometimes squatted, and sometimes even had to roll on his back like a chafer, so his energy was almost exhausted just when he arrived at the mining site. There is no time to rest, he was urged by two mountain guards to mine when he arrived at the place. As the saying goes, it's not hard to watch people bear the burden. Zhang Beiran used to watch the workers wielding hose on TV and always wondered how much effort this would take. However, in reality, he was so tired that his throat burst into flames after only a dozen blows. His hands seemed to be filled with lead, and he was too heavy to lift up. Ha, ha! Zhang Beiran, with his sore hands holding the mine pick, desperately tried to inhale some fresh air, but there was only a burst of gas in the mine, which made him feel dizzy as he smelled it. Who let you rest? Do you want to pass the trial? Just when Zhang Beiran was about to faint, a guardian came up and pushed him. Hearing the word trial, Zhang Beiran sighed again and wanted to continue fighting, but he couldn't lift his hands. Ugh! I'm so useless, I'm sorry, master, I let you down. Scolded himself in his heart, Zhang Beiran shook his head and said, I really can't dig. How many digs did you dig? You can't dig anymore, just like you want to join the clan. I am useless, I will apologize to the Taoist chief, I let him down, sorry. Zhang Beiran sighed deeply as he finished speaking, feeling that the protagonists of the novels he had read were able to explode incomparably tenacious will for cultivation. Why is he so weak? I don't know how to help me with this broken system. Admitted in his heart that he was weak, and Zhang Beiran was about to accept the defeat calmly, and felt a sudden pain in his abdomen. Damn it! It's a waste. The few who came in earlier have been fighting for months to get into that bird sect. You bear stuff is only the first day. The guardian Shanran gave Zhang Beiran another kick while talking. Zhang Beiran was stunned by these two kicks. He only felt a whirl of the sky, a buzzing in his head, and an ominous premonition hit his heart. However, before he could figure it out, the mountain guard squatted down and grabbed his hair and shouted, "Trash stuff, listen carefully to Lao Tzu. What kind of heaven do you have to enter the sect and become a master? I'm telling you, you're just a rubbish, now I'm digging well for Lao Tzu. If you can't dig, Lao Tzu will kill you, understand?" Zhang Beiran shook his head vigorously after hearing this, and shouted, "I want to see my master, I want to see my master." "Your master? Ha 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 ha." The guardian laughed wildly and asked, "What is your master's name?" My master is called, my master is called. Zhang Beiran was stunned again. After 2 days, the Taoist leader never told him his name, nor did he ask. My master is a Taoist from Huo sect. He brought me here yesterday. I want to see him, I want to see him. Ha 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 ha. The mountain guard's laughter grew wilder, and then he kicked Zhang Beiran's belly again. Still away from Huo sect, have your dream of spring and autumn. I will give you 2 choices now. Either you continue to stand up and mine, or you will be kicked to death on your stomach. You only have 3 seconds. Shu Shenren just finished speaking. 3 options appeared in front of Zhang Beiran. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com 2. When Zhang Beiran looked at the content of the options, the guardian had already counted 2, and kicked him in the stomach again. At this moment, Zhang Bei has realized it. He understands that the content of these options is not important at all. Just look at the rewards. The better the rewards, the more dangerous this option is. Because judging from the strength of the kick just now, Zhang Beiran completely believes that the other party dared to kick him to death. If he continues to lie on his stomach, he will definitely die. So before the 3 in the Moriyama population was about to shout, Zhang Beiran immediately chose 3 and stood up with a strong will to survive. Very well, isn't this still powerful? Just dig if you don't want to die. Did you hear that? Zhang Beiran was trembling all over at this time, but in order to survive, he still tried his best to lift the mining pick and smash it down. Looking at the system prompts that had floated before, and the trace of strength gushing out of his body, Zhang Beiran was stunned. Is it done directly? Before, when he chose, he didn't immediately give a reward at all. Instead, it became a task, but now he just got the reward directly after completing the content on the option. The difference in difficulty was so big that he was stunned. What are you stunned? Hearing the guardian, oh no, the supervisor yelled, Zhang Beiran hurriedly continued to lift the mine pick and knock. In the end Zhang Beiran survived, and knew that he was deceived, and realized the fact that he was deceived into the black mine by a few cakes. He laughed at how stupid he was, but he didn't accept his fate, because he still has a system, he can still come back. Although this system with no instructions at all is very awkward, Zhang Beiran believes that he has figured out its urine properties. That is, when choosing a rewarding task, you must treat it with 12 points. For example, the previous, although the black-cropped Daoist is a liar, maybe he is not a Daoist from Huo sect at all, but the goal of the system is to make him worship him as a teacher, and does not say what to learn after apprenticeship. It is the master who teaches martial arts, and the master who teaches deception is the same. Realizing this, Zhang Beiran learned from it, thinking that if he could think of it earlier, then he should be clever, and then use a tactful way to break the deception of the black-cropped Taoist. Maybe that way the black-cropped Taoist will not sell him to this black mine, but take him to cheat the world. However, he behaved like a Taihanin, convinced of every word of Daoist Hei Pao, and told others that he was an orphan and had already ran away from home. This is not clear to them. Say lie to me, there is no worries whenever I think of Zhang Beiran, I want to slap myself, and feel that the sweat that I am digging now is all the water that enters my mind when facing the black-cropped Taoist. But now he is different. He already knows that this system is not here to give him benefits, so he will treat it with caution in the future. The opportunity came a little faster than Zhang Beiran thought. In the second week after he was subjected to all kinds of inhuman abuses, he was no longer physically so painful that he could not sleep, and he began to plan to escape. At the same time, 4 options appeared before him. Zhang Beiran, who felt he was doing it again, first excluded option 4, and then began to analyze the other 3 options. Option 1, those supervisors would indeed get drunk at noon, and would not pay attention to the workers like Zhang Beiran at all. It seemed to be a way to go. But Zhang Beiran now deeply understands that rewards are the most credible, so the 4 characters of Xian level low rank made him reject this option in an instant. After several choices, Zhang Beiran already understood the level of the routine of this system. From top to bottom, it should be divided into heaven, earth, Xian, and Huang, because he has seen earth, Xian, and Huang, and then each level is divided into 3 ranks, upper, middle and lower. The option of worshipping a black-cropped Taoist as a teacher last time was only to reward the yellow-level high-grade martial art body, which almost killed him. This time a higher mysterious level low-grade came, and he was really afraid that he would have his life to choose. Take. The second option is to look at the rewards, and the difficulty is the same as that of the black-cropped Taoist teacher, but the content really makes Zhang Beiran feel unreliable. Where is the mine? Every 1 meter forward, several brackets must be installed to prevent the dangerous places from collapsing, and secretly dig a way to escape? Even if he can avoid being discovered, he is afraid of being crushed to death by digging halfway. The last remaining option 3 seems to be more likely to be implemented. After digging in the mountains for a week, Zhang Beiran already knows that almost all the people who are mining here are deceived like him, and he feels resentment about this. Both are huge. And the supervisors here didn't treat them as human beings at all. As long as they paused for a while when they saw someone, it would be a kick. In addition, in such a hard mining situation, the supervisors gave them 2 meals a day, and the food was still porridge as thin as water and hard as iron buns. All the workers had long been angry. Besides, the reward for this option is the yellow-ranked inferior. It is definitely the worst reward, which means that the difficulty is the lowest. If you can't even handle tasks of this degree, then Zhang Beiran is still a traverser, looking for a piece of tofu. Forget it. Just choose 3. After making a choice, Zhang Beiran immediately started preparing for the uprising plan after starting the escape mission. During this period, he made full use of the advantages of his traversers. He said, "The princes and generals are kind." After Zhang Beiran said that he had killed a white giant snake with Jujin last night. At night, he dreamed of an old woman crying and said that his son Bai Daizi was killed by Qi Daizi. This wave of momentum made a group of workers think Zhang Beiran was the reincarnation of the gods who came to save them, and they worshipped more and more. Seeing that his team of workers grows stronger, Zhang Beiran, who is drinking the porridge, laughs up to the sky. Sure enough, as long as he is prepared, a small task of a yellow level inferior is not a handy task. Then he was reported the next day. Needless to say, if it weren't for the supervisors to torture Zhang Beiran, better to deter those workers who dare to have this idea. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Zhang Beiran was beaten to death the night before. Since then, Zhang Beiran has completely turned on the self-closing mode. As long as the system jumps out of the options, he will select the last one that rewards the basic attribute points, and will never dare to touch other options. Zhang Beiran has spent a very safe 2 months in this way. It can be said that it is disease-free and disaster-free. No accidents occurred except that mining is still tiring. So Zhang Beiran realized it again. This system is not so much to help him grow, as it is to give him early warning. As long as he keeps clicking the simplest attribute point option, he can avoid all kinds of disasters. This state remained until a sunny morning. When Zhang Beiran got up and was about to go to the construction site, he heard a violent explosion in his ear. 3 options appeared in front of him at the same time. Okay. This time, the options are a bit out of routine. According to the general routine, it is definitely the most unwise to choose to escape in this extremely chaotic time. After all, those overseers are not stupid. They know that someone will run away in the chaos, so they will inevitably send someone to guard at the mountainside or at the foot of the mountain. If you are caught, even if you don't die, you won't escape a severe beating. But in the past 2 months, Zhang Beiran has experienced various tortures and difficulties. It can be said that there is no system prompts for various options. Maybe he is already dead, so this time he chose to believe the system. Just choose 3. When he rushed out of the hut, Zhang Beiran's expression was shocked, and he found that the billowing black smoke almost completely blocked his vision, which made him a little confused. He thought it was a mine explosion, but now it looks like someone is setting fire. Burn the mountain. After thinking a little bit, Zhang Beiran quickly ran back to the hut and took out a soaked towel. The smoke was too big. If he rushed into the black smoke, he was afraid that he would be choked to death before escaping down the mountain. Covered his mouth and nose with a wet towel, Zhang Beiran gave up other considerations, and started running down the mountain. With the help of billowing black smoke, Zhang Beiran went all the way down, and there was no supervisor on the road. Are you all going to fight the fire? Although I don't know why this is happening, this does not prevent Zhang Beiran from getting better and better, and his steps are getting lighter and lighter. I believe that the simplest option is not wrong, he is finally going to escape from this ghost place. However, just as Zhang Beiran broke through the unguarded checkpoint and was about to reach the foot of the mountain, a reckless man who was carrying a long knife on his way suddenly ran into him head-on. The reckless man was taken aback for a moment, and then shouted, "Dog stuff! Want to escape? My life is over!" Looking at the bright sword, Zhang Beiran, who didn't even know how to hide, could only hold his head and squat down. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds passed. Zhang Beiran cursed several system cheatings in his heart, and found that he has not been hacked. Swallowed his saliva, the courageous Zhang Beiran raised his head and looked up, and found that the brash man holding a long knife had a large hole in his chest. After coughing up several mouthfuls of blood, he fell to the ground with wide eyes. Dead, dead. Is not at all surprised for the dead Zhang Beiran. After all, he has seen too many in the mine in the past 2 months, and his death is far worse than the one before him. What he was surprised was why a rash man would die when he said he was dead. "Brother, are you okay?" Just when Zhang Beiran didn't know what to do, a hand suddenly fell on his shoulder, and he almost sat on the ground in shock. "Who?" Zhang Beiran yelled and turned his head, only to see a white fluttering man standing behind him with a smile. He has black, bright and vertical hair, slanting, sharp eyebrows, slender eyes with sharp black eyes, thin and lightly pursed lips, angular contours and a tall but not rugged body. Chivalrous Ling Ran. 3 options appeared in front of Zhang Beiran at the same time. Without any hesitation, Zhang Beiran directly chose 3 and shouted affectionately, "Heroes, help me!" With the smoky red eyes, and the line of tears covered in dust, Zhang Beiran looks pitiful and pathetic now. Seeing Zhang Beiran calling for help so decisively, the white-clothed man was stunned. After all, he just killed someone in front of him just now. In the past, most of the teenagers who were rescued by him would shout, "Don't kill me, don't kill me!" back again and again. That's why he deliberately put out a smile, just for fear of scaring Zhang Beiran, but now it seems that the boy in front of him seems to be much bolder than he thought. "Okay, I will take you down the mountain now." After saying this, the white-clothed man came up and carried Zhang Beiran and ran down the mountain. Later, when Zhang Beiran was placed, he slowly learned the ins and outs of the matter. The white-clothed man who rescued him was called Lu Sigi, a disciple of Geixinzong. This time, he brought several juniors and sisters down the mountain to do a trial task, and the content of the trial task was to wipe out the black mine on Ling Mao Peak. But because the juniors he brought with him were too conceited and felt that those on the mountain were just ordinary people, so he did not inform him of the iron seal responsible for leading them, and committed suicide on Ling Mo Feng alone, but was discovered by those supervisors and opened it directly. Guarding the mountain, the whole mountain was burned up. According to Lu Weigui, this guarding mountain formation is very vicious. Its main function is not to resist foreign enemies, but to burn all the traces on the mountain with a torch, so that no one can investigate anything. Hearing this, Zhang Beiran couldn't help feeling a cold behind him. If he chose to stay in the room or go to fight the fire at that time, it is estimated that he would be 9 minutes old by now. After a series of simplest options, Zhang Beiran smoothly worshipped Geixinzong under the recommendation of Lu Sigi, and since then he has a place to stay. Putting away the memories, Zhang Beiran said emotionally, if it weren't for senior brother Lu back then, I would have died on that Ling Mao peak. Lu Sigi smiled and shook his head, it's bad brother, it brings back bad memories for you, I will punish myself for a cup. Looking at Lu Bogagui's Hanchun wine in front of him, Zhang Beiran picked up the cloth bag in front of him and said, brother, this is too expensive for you. You are polite to the brother again, should you say you should fine a cup? Yes, it should be punished, it should be punished. Zhang Beiran smiled and drank a glass of cold spring wine. Open it quickly and see if you like it or not. Senior brother gave it to me. I definitely like it. Zhang Beiran opened the cloth bag as he said, and took out a round bronze mirror with a protruding center. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. This is, the heart shield. Zhang Beiran was surprised. Well, the quality is not very high. It is only top grade. You can use it first. When I go to Luizhuang next time, I can see if I can get a better one for you. What brother said, the top grade heart guard is already very good, I am a little embarrassed to accept it. After coming to Geixinzong, Zhang Beiran knew why his few tasks that rewarded Huang-level martial arts or weapons were so difficult. That's because in this world called Xianlong continent, Huang Ti refers to a magic weapon that already has spirituality. It belongs to ordinary people without even thinking about it. Some low-level sects will even use it as a treasure of the town. When he first learned this knowledge, Zhang Beiran really wanted to get the system out and ask him what his grudges or grievances were with him, and he wanted to pit him to death. Because the magic weapons of the 4 levels of heaven and earth Xianhuang are too high-end, let alone ordinary people can't afford it, some young disciples of large sects can't. Therefore, under the heaven and earth, there are some weapons and armors created by famous artists. From bottom to top, they are ordinary, good, top, and exquisite. And this top grade is already considered a pretty good treasure, and it is definitely considered a lavish hand to give away among sect disciples. Don't say that, the reason why the brother gave you this protective mirror actually contains the ingredients of thank you. The bottle of Yingxiang pills you gave me last time is very effective. Is it really your own practice? Zhang Beiran nodded without making any concealment. Then junior brother, you are really talented. How about I introduce you to the Rong Katang? Anyway, you have no intention of practicing. If you can achieve something in alchemy, you may rise faster than me in the future. Brother doesn't know me, Okay, elder brother won't persuade you to make progress in the future. Lu Sigi smiled and shook his head. Looking at Lu Sigi's disappointment, Zhang Beiran was also helpless. In fact, it wasn't that he didn't ask for improvement, but the system options prevented him from making progress. When he first came to Geixinzong, Zhang Beiran passed the qualification test to become an outside disciple, and obtained the qualifications to learn Geixinju and one-word swordsmanship. According to the rules of Geixinzong, as long as the outer disciples practice the Geixinju and learn the first formula in the one-character swordsmanship, even if they pass the first test, they become formal disciples and obtain the qualifications of worship. What is worshipping the door? We must start with the 24 halls set up by Geixinzong. Each of these 24 classes has its own unique characteristics, including piano, chess, calligraphy, paintings, swords, guns, and sticks. Outer disciples can choose according to their strengths or preferences. Zhang Beiran was a little surprised when he heard this. I don't know whether all the schools in this world teach in accordance with their aptitude, or whether the suzerain of Geixin sect is particularly advanced in thinking and knows the importance of diverse talents in the sect. When an outer disciple passes the first test and obtains the qualification to worship, he can choose one of the 24 churches to be a teacher. As long as the teacher is successful, he can learn more advanced mental methods martial arts. If the qualifications are high enough, they may be accepted as disciples by the blue flag or black flag in the hall, or even the hall master, and enjoy absolute oneonan elite education. Geixinju and one-word swordsmanship are the most basic moves, so naturally there is no Oneonon elite teaching by masters. Hundreds of outside disciples sit in the martial arts hall, and none of them come to teach them. What a master, but a brother who looks very young. During the class, Zhang Beiren found that in addition to their new students, there were also some old students who seemed to have been here for a long time. There are 4 classes a week, and 2 weeks of classes are all over. Before leaving, the senior told Zhang Beiren that they had to practice the rest on their own. When he was practicing himself, Zhang Beiren found that he had an unusually high aptitude. He was the first to practice the Geixinju among hundreds of outer disciples, but just when he was going to report to the Qing gang who was in charge of managing them, he was in front of him. 3 options suddenly popped up. Hey, is it so dangerous? Seeing that the first option was directly given to the profound grade middle grade, Zhang Beiren was a little confused. After all, this reward can basically be directly equated with life. Is it because the gun shot the bird? Because he had a very good impression of Lu Sigi, and on the way here, he often said how good the Geixinzong was, so Zhang Beiren always made up the brains of Geixinzong to be a decent and upright sect. But now, it seems that just showing some extraordinary talents will lead to killing. But Zhang Beiren thinks about it and thinks it is true. In the 21st century where the judicial system is mature, the streets are full of cameras, and the face recognition is a big killer, there are people in the 21st century who dare to commit crimes, let alone even a fingerprint technology. The fantasy continent has not been developed. I really want to kill you, put some poison in your dishes, suddenly kick you behind when you go up the mountain, or even give you a knife when you go to the toilet in the dark. That all highlights the inconsistency of death. It is estimated that 100 cases. If 2 or 3 real culprits can be caught in the case, it is even a masterpiece. But the first option is dangerous, Zhang Beiren can understand, but in the second option, silent practice will cause disasters, which makes him a little unclear, but it is not important, because he has already chosen 3. After, Zhang Beiren obediently became a salted fish. Most of the disciples who lived in the same dormitory area got up to practice Qigong when they were in the same dormitory area, and he did not get up until 1 or 2 hours later. And others had finished practicing swordsmanship and were ready to go to meditate, and he followed along to pretend for a while. Over time, he became in the eyes of most outside disciples, and sometimes Zhang Beiren could hear the ridicule they deliberately let himself hear when eating. I don't know how this kind of person passed the qualification test. That is, I only wake up until I sleep every day. None of my pigs can sleep like this. Forget it, let's not talk about others like that. We can't blame others for poor qualifications. In the face of such ridicule, Zhang Beiren not only had no waves in his heart, but even wanted to laugh a little. Isn't this a waste start? Stable. This kind of study lasted for 2 weeks, and finally a handsome male disciple named Wei Yan took the lead, telling Qing Gang that he had practiced the first style of Geixinju and one-word sword technique. In the envious eyes of everyone, Wei Yan waved goodbye to his brother who had been a classmate for a month, and was about to pay his respects. After another 2 weeks, most of the outer disciples in the same period have almost passed the test. Only 13 disciples, including Zhang Beiren, have not passed the test. In the early morning of another day, without any notice, Zhang Beiren discovered that a new group of outer disciples had arrived at the lecture hall. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. This student is very good. In just over a month, he unexpectedly recruited 100 other outer disciples, which gave Zhang Beiren a more specific understanding of the scale of Geixin sect. But the other outer disciples who were at the same time as him are not as leisurely as his. When they see the new outer disciples, they all have very ugly expressions, because they know that they have also become the ones they have laughed at. Repeat students. After that, Zhang Beiren did not repetitively for too long. At the end of the first month when a new group of outer disciples arrived, when there were few outer disciples who repeat with him in the same period, the option appeared in front of him. There are only 2 rare options. Zhang Beiran didn't think about why choosing one would have such a good reward, so he chose two. Found Qing Gang in the cabin outside Zhang Wutang, Zhang Beiran told him that he had practiced the first form of Geixinju and one-word sword technique. There was not much reaction. Qing Gang nodded towards Zhang Beiran, let him demonstrate the first form of one-word swordsmanship, and then pressed his palm on Zhang Beiran's chest to let him run the Geixinju. At the moment when he started the Geixinju, Zhang Beiran thought that if he had chosen the second one to continue practicing silently, he would definitely be discovered by the Qing Gang in front of him. Feeling Zhang Beiran's hard work of returning to the heart, Qing Gang nodded and said to Zhang Beiran, "Well, through the test, you are now an official disciple of my Geixin sect. You can go to the door by yourself." Bowed towards Zhang Beiran Yingying, Lu Zijing's lips slightly opened, "I will have the first trial of going down the mountain in 3 days. I would like to ask the brother to be our iron seal." As soon as Lu Zijing's voice fell, Zhang Beiran jumped out of 3 options. When he saw the prefecture-level middle-grade award, Zhang Beiran's eyes stared, and he didn't even read the content of option 2. He directly chose 3 and replied, "Sorry, brother, I have been busy with my studies recently. I also heard that Cheng Litang called me to play chess. This hall is a chess idiot. As long as I start to play, I will definitely not be released within 4 or 5 days. Farewell." Arched his hands after speaking, turned around and left. "Brother Zhang, when will Cheng Litang play chess with you for more than a day?" Seeing that the little junior who was helping to run errands was about to ruin himself again, Zhang Beiran quickly covered his mouth and dragged him to Lan Xingxuan. The eyes of the dragged-away little brother were painful, puzzled, resentful, and unwilling to give up. Such a beautiful sister. Let me take a look. However, the strength is not as great as Zhang Beiran, so he can only be dragged along. Rejected. Lu Zijin froze in place, watching Jiang Bei leave as quickly as he fled, and he felt his heartbeat speed up somehow. Is that what it feels like to be rejected? Since I was young, no one has ever rejected me. This brother, so special? No, it's not the time to think about this. Lu Zijin, who came back to his senses, chased after him, shouting, "Brother Zhang, don't rush away. I haven't finished speaking yet, Brother Zhang." But what made her strange was that the brother seemed to be walking normally, but he ran faster than her and couldn't catch up no matter what. Seeing Zhang Beiran about to disappear from sight, Lu Zijin suddenly saw a purple shadow walking towards her, so she hurriedly shouted, "Chu Yao! Stop the brother! Don't let him go!" Fang Kaiyao came here with Lu Zijin, but she was not as patient as Lu Zijin. After a while, she used the thirsty escape method to go to other places to play. Just coming back this time, she heard that Sister Zijin, her tone was very urgent, and asked her to stop the senior who was walking towards her. Fang Kaiyao can't help but make up one picture after another in such scenes. Her senior sister must have been made unreasonable by the person in front of her. Deng disciple! What did you do to my son Jin? After hearing only Keng Keng, Fang Kaiyao directly drew out the Beihung sword and stabbed Zhang Beiran. It's worthy of being a junior girl who can give a prestigious mid-level reward. It's so difficult to even bugger. Hurriedly avoided the sword stabbed by Fang Kaiyao. Seeing that the opponent had to stab again, Zhang Beiran repeatedly said, "Misunderstanding, misunderstanding. I believe you are a ghost." Fang Kaiyao said that she was going to stab again as she said that she was going to stab her, but she heard Lu Zijin's shout from behind. Chu Yao rested presumptuously. "Brother Zhang didn't do anything to me." Fang Kaiyao realized that she really seemed to be wrong, and she looked at Lu Zijin blankly. Seeing that there was an opportunity, Zhang Beiran quickly dragged the junior apprentice to continue driving off, but before he took 2 steps, he heard Lu Zijin yelling, "Brother Zhang, would you please let me speak? Wait until I finish you. It's not too late to refuse me." The movement of the fight just now attracted a group of Lan Xintang disciples to watch. At this moment, I heard Lu Zijing's voice full of grievances, and my heart suddenly increased, and they surrounded Zhang Beiran with their eyes. It was full of anger. A sin. Seeing that he has nowhere to go, Zhang Beiran is really about to split his whole person. Why don't you usually see this group of puppies so brave? Sighed helplessly, Zhang Beiran let go of the little apprentice who was almost suffocating, and turned to look at Lu Zijing. Seeing Zhang Beiran stopped, Lu Zijing hurriedly stepped forward and said again, "I'm very sorry for the trouble, but this experience is very important to me, so I really hope you can help me." Lu Zijing's words made the onlookers confused, and some of the old disciples were even more confused. Is this Jiang Bei so famous? As a disciple of Lan Xintang and live relatively close, it is definitely impossible to say that they don't know Zhang Beiran at all, but the biggest impression they have of Zhang Beiran is that this old man has been a named disciple for 5 years. No master, what can such a person have? Can actually attract such a beautiful little sister to plead? Listening to Lu Zijing's sincere tone, Zhang Beiran couldn't help feeling soft, but when he thought of the prestigious mid-level rewards, he quickly became hardened. So he said, Sister, sorry, I have some important things to do in the near future, so I really don't know how to do it." Without waiting for Lu Zijing's reply, Fang Kaiyao stepped forward and said, "Brother, you used such a bad excuse to push us away, wouldn't you be afraid?" At this time, the onlookers shifted their gazes from Lu Zijing to Fang Kaiyao, and their hearts were immediately filled with this junior is also good looking. Fang Kaiyao's beauty is different from that of Lu Zijing, she is more like a girl next door, with curved eyebrows, a little Kaiyang nose slightly upturned, her face like white jade, Yanruo Hua, and she doesn't put any powder on her face. Yuyuganshu.com only hung a string of pearls on her neck, giving off a faint halo, reflecting her even more engraved jade. Just after Fang Kaiyao asked, Zhang Beiran jumped out of 3 options. Good fellow. Here comes another predecessor. Damn, absolutely. Zhang Beiran really wanted to cry without tears at this time. I don't know how the crouching dragon and phoenix chicks appeared here today, this is killing him. Decisively chose 3, Zhang Feng nodded towards Fang Kaiyao and said, "Yes. You." Fang Kaiyao's beautiful eyes condensed, she clearly thought that no matter how the senior brother Zhang made an excuse to say that she was not afraid, she had arguments that could refute him, but she did not expect that he would admit it in full view. Humph! Pouting angrily, Fang Kaiyao walked back to Lu Zijing and said, "Let's go, Sister Zijing, he refuses to be our iron seal, some people are willing to do it." Lu Zijing shook his head and said, "Chu Yao can't say that. It's because we abrupt others. There are natural reasons for people to refuse. How can you be angry about it?" "Oh, I see," Fang Kaiyao pouted and nodded. Seeing that Lu Zijing was so sensible, Zhang Beiran was also relieved, thinking that the matter had finally come to an end, and he should rush away. But when the onlookers found that there was no excitement to watch, and when they were about to disperse, a figure suddenly stepped into the air and fell between Zhang Beiran and Lu Zijing. "Brother Kong!" Lu Zijing cried out unexpectedly when he saw the visitor. At the same time, the surrounding Blue Heart Hall disciples who were about to disperse instantly focused their eyes on the heroic brother who suddenly fell from the sky. "Brother Kong!" A disciple of Lan Xintang in the crowd murmured to himself, and then suddenly widened his eyes. Could it be the broken gun from Shui Jingtang Kong Anan, Brother Kong? Broken military gun? What is it? Several disciples next to him asked curiously. "You don't know this?" 3 years ago, this senior Brother Kong went to Hualien to practice. There was a turmoil on the road. In order to protect the people who were fleeing, he committed suicide with a Tijriad chisel and a golden gun. In the Chaos Army, and went straight to the rank of the Lieutenant General, it caused a great chaos in the army, and gained time for the people to escape, and then they were awarded the title of Broken Gun. So amazing! The disciple's eyes shone when he heard it, and the look in Kong Annan's eyes also revealed some admiration. Of course, Brother Kong can definitely be regarded as our Geixen sect's top-notch disciple in the past 2 years, but I only heard that before. I didn't expect to see a real person today. It is really extraordinary. Hearing the disciples around him whispering about him, Kong Annan smiled and hugged his fists around him and said, I have seen all the juniors of Lan Xintang, it is Shui Jingtang Kong Annan. All the Lang Xintang disciples hurriedly bowed and shouted, well, see Brother Kong. He arched his hands toward the surrounding Lan Xintang disciples. Kong Annan turned and looked at Lu Zijin and said, Junior sister, won't you go down the mountain for a trial in 2 days? Don't make preparations in the hall, why come to Lan Xintang? Before Lu Zijin could speak, Fang Kaiyao replied first, we are here to find that. Hey, what about others? Fang Kaiyao looked at Zhang Beiren's original position with a look of confusion, wondering how such a big person would disappear and disappear. Just as she was about to ask other Lan Xintang disciples if they saw Brother Na Zhang, Lu Zijin pulled her behind her and said to Kong Annan, meeting Brother Kong, Chu Yao and I are just here to do something. I'm about to go back, I don't know why the brother came here. Oh, me. I just passed by, and I just sensed the aura of the younger sister, so I came down and took a look. It turns out that it's like this. If you have something to do, senior brother, let's go and do it. Chu Yao and I are also ready to go back. Actually, I'm planning to go back to class, so I happen to be walking with you. Okay, let's make one. Lu Zijing nodded, then glanced at the place where Zhang Beiren stood just now before turning and leaving. On the other side, Zhang Beiren, who had been driving a long time ago, had come to the door of Lan Xingxuan. Hey! As expected, she is the junior girl who can trigger the pre-level middle grade options, it is really scary. At the moment Kong Annan fell just now, while everyone's eyes were on the person, Zhang Beiren left the place of right and wrong at a speed that no one could notice. The reason why he has to run so fast is entirely because he has suffered a lot in this aspect before. Geixenzong has a rule that all disciples must abide by, that is, they must go down the mountain for a trial every 2 months. The first is to prevent the disciples from living in the mountain all day long. Except for cultivation, they don't understand other human relationships. The second is to increase the local reputation of Geixenzong. To put it simply, it is to start the brand of Geixenzong. For example, some heroes do good deeds without leaving their names, but the disciples of Geixen sect cannot leave their names. If a disciple of the Geixen sect is excluding a group of bandits, then this must be spread so that people in this area know that it is the Geixenzong who have killed the bandits. When Zhang Beiren just learned of this rule, he couldn't help feeling in his heart that this Geixen sect was indeed going to happen. No wonder he could recruit so many disciples every month. After receiving the trial task after going down the mountain, ordinary disciples will find some like-minded brothers and sisters to go with them, and the most important thing is to find an iron seal to lead the team. In Geixenzong, as long as you stay for a full year, it means that you have gone down the mountain to try at least 6 times. This means that you are already a mature Geixenzong disciple. From this moment on, you will have a new one. The obligation is to lead those disciples who have just started to go down the mountain to try as an iron seal every 2 months. So Tai Yin is just a chore to be a bodyguard and a babysitter for those new students. The first time Zhang Beiren went down the mountain for a trial, it was Lu Silk who gave him the stamp, and took him away with a fierce beast that often attacked the village. It was almost no difficulty. After all, as long as you can learn the homecoming secret, your strength is far beyond ordinary people. It's easy to fight a few lions and tigers. This kind of life quickly passed for a year, and the big loss Zhang Beiren suffered was from the fact that he became an iron seal. That time he became the iron seal of a 5-person team. There were 3 men and 2 women in the team. One of them was a young teacher who was very pleasant and had a very good personality. The other 3 male disciples were insanely courteous. But the younger sister has always expressed her favor to Zhang Beiren, who has given her a great sense of security, which made the other 3 male disciples very jealous. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Later, on the way back, the younger sister summoned up the courage to take out her embroidered jinpsa and confessed to Zhang Beiran, and she confessed to Zhang Beiran in front of the other 4 people. This stimulated the other 3 male disciples. As for why Zhang Beiran knew they had exploded, it was because he saw 3 options that popped out in front of him. After reading the 3 options, Zhang Beiran was stunned. This was the first time he encountered that none of the 3 options were rewarded with basic attribute points. The worst one will reward the yellow middle grade. Men or something, they are all lower body animals. With a roar from the bottom of his heart, Zhang Beiran tearfully chose 3, and using me as a younger sister rejected the younger sister, but after being rejected, the younger sister did not feel discouraged, and firmly stated that he would let the younger brother one day. I don't think of myself as my sister. This also made Zhang Beiran understand why there is no basic attribute point option, because this is a proposition in itself. No matter how he answered, the 3 male disciples with thick white liquid in their heads would hate him. But no matter how depressed Zhang Beiran is, after making an option, the corresponding task will follow. The content is to let him relieve the hostility of the 3 juniors or kill them directly. I'm so husky. After reading the content of the mission, Zhang Beiran roared inwardly again. Can come to Geixinzong to practice. In addition to the civilian disciples like Zhang Beiran picked up, there are also descendants of major families. Like Zhang Beiran's luck, he won 3 first prizes in a row. In a team of only 5 people, 1 official second generation, 1 rich second generation, and 1 chivalrous second generation, and these 3 people hated him. A sin. After investigating the life experience of the 3 younger brothers, all Zhang Beiran were split, and at the same time he realized it again. The world is targeting him, very, very much. But now that things have happened, you can only face it. Zhang Beiran admits that he is not now Wu Xiaoman. After a year, he has accumulated a lot of attribute points and skill points, even when facing the yellow rank. In the mid-range mission, he felt that he also had the power to fight. The second generation of Xiaxia is named Wu Qingqi, and his father is Wu Fengmian, a well-known valiant in Shandong area. He is superb with his concealed weapon. He was the first to come to Zhang Beiran after he returned to Xinzong, but the method was very decent, that is, he went directly to the door to pass the challenge book, and whoever wins can pursue the younger sister. Although Zhang Beiran explained countless times that he was really not interested in the little junior sister, Wu Qingqi is just a stick, no fight, or Zhang Beiran took the challenge, and 3 days later, the grove under Qingtian Peak will be there, or he do it now. What else can Zhang Beiran say in the face of such a stunned head? In addition to a lot of %% vulgar words in my heart, I can only accept the challenge book with a smile on his face. But Zhang Beiran didn't wait for these 3 sky stalls. He thought that instead of waiting for the other 2 to come to challenge or secretly attack, he should take the initiative to attack and find a way to get them first. So he found the rich second-generation disciple first. The second-generation disciple of the rich is named Lin Zhuge, the son of Lin Jingxiang, the richest man in Ningyang County. It can be said that he has seen the prosperity of the world since he was a child. The practice of coming Geixin sect is completely a whim. In addition, he wants to earn some money for his father. For the sake of face, it is enough to have some pocket money in the future. When he found Lin Zhuge, he had just finished his exercises. This rich second generation was quite decent. On the surface, he still politely shouted to Zhang Beiran, "Hello, brother Zhang." But the voice was a little weird. But Zhang Beiran responded with a sentence that he didn't expect. "I wonder if junior brother Lin wants to discuss a cooperation with me." When I inquired before, Zhang Beiran knew that Lin Zhuge's family was mainly engaged in transportation business, so in the conversation, he shared the Transira creativity of newspaper with him. After listening to Lin Zhuge, he immediately shot the case and exclaimed, and said that he would go home immediately to discuss with his father. If his father thinks it is okay, he will definitely give Zhang Beiran a generous remuneration. Of course, he must follow the cooperation, he said. Also, Zhang Beiran's idea is very simple. Since Lin Zhuge's father can become the richest man, he is naturally a smart man. If he is smart enough, then he should cooperate with him who can come up with brilliant ideas for a long time. If he is not so smart, then Zhang Beiran had the right to invest in completing this yellow-level mid-level mission. Talking about good cooperation, Lin Zhuge's attitude has obviously changed to respect Zhang Beiran. It is like expressing his admiration for Zhang Beiran like a surging river, and the sound of senior brother Zhang has lost the previous yin and yang smell. So Zhang Beiran took advantage of the situation and asked the last of the three, Wang Yuan, the second-generation official. But Lin Zhuge told him that they just happened to come together to take the trial task, and then they were brought together by the Flower Crown who was responsible for the arrangement. They didn't know Wang Yuan before, only knew that he was the son of Wang Bingchuan, the county lieutenant of Chuanan County, but this Wang Bingchuan was his I have heard of it. Because of its high efficiency in solving crimes, it is very popular among local people. When I came to an unfamiliar place, the most important thing was of course to understand who was in charge of this place, so Zhang Beiran had studied the names of officials carefully for a while. The post of county lieutenant is in charge of public security, and his status is only under the county magistrate. If it is changed to modern times, it is equivalent to being the director of the Public Security Bureau, which is a very powerful official. Thanked Lin Zhuge, Zhang Beiran was thinking about what to say to Wang Yuan when he went to find Wang Yuan, but this one came by himself. Meet brother Zhang. Wang Yuan can definitely be regarded as a gentleman in the image, and most people will feel good about him just seeing his polite smile. I wonder why junior brother Wang is looking for me? Zhang Beiran asked with his hands. It's hard to tell, Wang Yuan scratched his head. I just wanted to ask brother Zhang, do you really like sister Su? Naturally take it seriously, didn't you see all of them that day? Then, can I ask brother why you like sister Su? Can you teach me? Seeing Wang Yuan's red cheeks, Zhang Beiran knew that he must have had the courage to ask, and he also understood that if he wanted to eliminate the hostility of this junior to him, it seemed that he could only solve it by teaching her to pick up girls. Worried that refusing him would cause more trouble, Zhang Beiran agreed and began to use his rich experience of watching others fall in love. Reading www.yukansha.com. When he was in junior high school, he liked to wander around the space and enjoy all kinds of love stories. Such as A Sharp Weapon is a Torn Wound, Ling Ruozan Shi, Bismuth Waste. He has watched a lot of things. These words can surprise a whole generation in their internet age, not to mention the ancient times when sending a letter was so troublesome. After listening to Wang Yuan, his eyes were almost shining, and he was almost kowtow to apprentice. I'll teach you this first. If it doesn't work, I will think of other methods. Wang Yuan thanked him repeatedly after listening, and said that if he could catch up with junior sister Su, he would definitely give Zhang Beiran a big red envelope, and then left happily. Time soon came to the third day. Zhang Beiran, who was fully prepared, came to the grove according to the address written in the challenge book, and prepared to use Wu Qingqi as a touchstone of his various strengths after a year. However, the second generation of Xia is the second generation of Xia. On the surface, he is a cute new disciple of Geixinzong. In fact, he has long practiced a clever hidden weapon technique, and Zhang Beiran, who is pierced with a flying needle, is called worse than Ziwei. But Zhang Beiran also showed a much stronger strength than Wu Qingqi knew. When he went down the mountain to try, Wu Qingqi discovered that Zhang Beiran's return to heart has only reached the second level, which is the second order strength of Qi training. But in actual combat, Zhang Beiran's strength and endurance far surpassed the strength of the second-tier Qi Lianqi, which caused Wu Qingqi's attack rhythm to be completely disrupted. In addition, Zhang Beiran used Gu and drugged, and eventually beat his master to death with random punches and put Wu Qingqi on the ground.